Happy Halloween month everybody! Today I have this beautiful Cruella makeup tutorial for you from the new movie with Emma Stone. So let's get straight on with it. I'm going to prep my base with the Vitamin Enriched Face Base from Bobbi Brown. This is super hydrating. As we're not using face paint, we are using actual makeup. I want to prep the skin as I would when I would regularly wear makeup. So we've hydrated the base, but we now want to prime it. So I'm going to use the Kevyn Aucoin Sensual Skin Primer. This one is really good at keeping the skin hydrated while also blurring the appearance of fine lines and pores. Next I'm going in with foundation. I'm using the Armani Luminous Silk in number 2. You can use any foundations, any primers, it can be budget friendly. I actually didn't have a light foundation in any other brand. And Emma Stone's makeup as Cruella was actual makeup, it wasn't face paint as we would probably go to for the original Cruella de Vil makeup. And her skin was naturally quite pale and it was just a little bit paler when she turned into Cruella. I actually have a bit of a tan at the moment, so I do need to go quite light with the foundation, so I'm going to be layering this. If you are on Instagram, it'd be worth checking out Nadia Stacey Hair and Makeup because she's actually the person that did Emma Stone's makeup for Cruella and Estella. And on some of the posts she shares the products that she actually used to achieve the makeup on Emma. When she did Estella's makeup, she actually only used a tinted moisturiser by NARS, and then when you see Cruella at home, it was the same base makeup. Even with Cruella's makeup, it still looked like skin, it was never heavy, and I think this is obviously because it's for film, we still want it to look realistic, so that's why I've chosen to use a product that's more like a medium finish, but also again it is the only foundation that I had to hand that was this light. In the studio I have a lot of foundations that are my skin tone, whereas in my actual professional kit is where I stock all of my lighter and deeper tones. So I've layered that over the skin, I've also taken it down the neck, and now I'm just going to set the centre of the face. I don't want to set underneath my eyes because if there is any fall down I'm going to need to clean up, but I just want to take a little bit of shine away because if I'm going to zoom in and do my eyes, all you're going to see is the light reflecting off my forehead otherwise. So I'm using the Huda Beauty Easy Bake setting powder in Sugar Cookie, but again any translucent powder will do. Today I just grabbed the Kryolan Madrid palette. This is a matte finish and this would be ideal for the whole look. For the brows I'm going to mix the brown and black shade together and I'm just going to kind of follow my natural shape. You can see in some of these little shots that I'm sharing from Nadia's Instagram, she's kind of followed Emma's natural brows but extended the tail. She's also sharpened them a little bit at the very front because that does come down into the actual bridge of the nose. Emma and I have completely different eye shapes. She does have quite hooded eyes. She doesn't have a ton of space between her lid and her brow bone. I have quite a bit of space and my lids aren't hooded. So my look will be slightly varied to suit my eye shape, but I will darken them to make them look a little bit more hooded. So I'm making it slightly softer towards the front as it would be naturally. And I will square it off a little bit more once I've started bringing the matte black eyeshadow down onto the bridge of the nose. Again, you can use any matte black, you don't have to use the Kryolan palette, anything will do. So I'm using a soft blending brush to create a bit of a V shape. So the widest part comes off of the brow and then it gets thinner as it comes down to the bridge of the nose, which kind of stops at the corner of the eye. And then I'm going to mix between a blending brush that has a little bit of the foundation on, and I'm going to use that just to soften the eyeshadow as I blend it. Next I'm going in with this matte white eyeshadow. This is a really old one from Sugar Pill, but any white matte eyeshadow will do. And on a flat shader brush, I'm taking this over the mobile lid. I'm also taking it slightly higher than the natural crease. So if you do have hooded eyes, you can go above the hood of your eye. And I'm also going to take that on the brow bone. Cruella had a variety of different looks and her makeup varied depending on what her look was for that scene. So she'd have different hair and her eye makeup, although very similar, would be slightly varied. That means I can do a look that suits my eye shape and it will still look like Cruella. I can see from Nadia's Instagram that she used MAC Smolder, which is a classic black, which is beautiful. I decided I would use the Zoeva Graphic Eyes pencil in the shade Black to Earth because I have it in the drawer next to me. That is going along my waterline and I'm also going to tightline with that, and the great thing about this pencil is it's super soft so you can get a really nice smudgy look with it. Going back to the matte black eyeshadow, I'm going to use this small detailer brush also from Zoeva and I'm going to start building up the outer edge of my eye, and I will have a lot more eyeshadow area to fill in than Emma Stone because my eyes aren't hooded. You'll see that I often look up at the mirror with my head slightly down, and the reason for this is just so I can see that I'm making the lid space look a little bit smaller. So don't worry if it starts to look a little bit messy in some areas. I am building the look, and this is the process. So I'm also taking that along the inner corner of the eye and I'm making it look smudgy. I can see from the reference images and from Nadia's Instagram account that they used smolder along the top lash line and then smudged it. I did decide I would go in with this later, but I ended up not bothering. It was dark enough with just the matte black eyeshadow. I'm taking a tiny craft brush just to kind of map out the shape. This is a bit of a messy process, but it's just for me to be able to see where I want to take the socket line. Both my eyes are different shape, so this part is important for me. This is the eye shape I'm going to run with first, and then on my slightly bigger eyelid, I'm going to make it darker below the socket so that it kind of matches this eye. I'm using the tip of the brush to make a wing on the outer edge, and I'm bringing it up perpendicular to the highest point that I've created, which is above the pupil. And then I'm going to slowly bring the colour forward towards the inner corner of the eye, which is then going to blend in to the bridge of the nose and the brow. In some scenes and some behind the scenes photos, the eye makeup is extremely dark, and that wing and the darkness around the brow is super severe. But then also in some of the photos like this one, you can see it's a lot smaller in its approach. Like the wing's not as severe, it is still quite dark, but it's not as dramatic. I'm using what's left on the bristles here to start blending the colour up into the brow just at the very front, and as you can see it's almost given us the appearance of a slightly bigger socket at the very beginning of our eye. I'm now shortening the space of that white lid by bringing the black further in, and again this is almost to make the white space look a bit smaller. So although we're making the socket at the very front slightly larger, the actual amount of white is going to be slightly smaller because we want that black to be very dramatic on the outer half. The idea is so that when we look up and look straight ahead, it doesn't matter that there's a crease in our socket, that black shadow from the inner corner of our eye to the outer wing is seamless. So now I'm going along with my brush and softening that line. We still want it to be quite defined, but we do want it to be slightly softer. So don't be tempted to completely blend it out, otherwise you'll lose that definition. But you do want it to be slightly softer. Matte eyeshadows are notoriously patchy. So just take your time, go along and start softening it and then relayering until you're happy with the finish. I'm taking that same eyeshadow underneath my lower eyelashes, but only on the outer half, and keeping it really close to the root of the eyelashes, and then reapplying my black kohl pencil. And then I'm just going back in to the eyeshadow to start redefining it. I want it to be a little bit less patchy, and now I know the shape, I can start working in blending the areas that need blending, and then making sure the areas that need to be darker are darker. The eyelashes I'm going to use are the Ardell Demi Wispies, and you can see from some of the reference images she definitely had eyelashes on, and then there was a coat of mascara to give them a bit more of a punk feel where it's a little bit more undone, a bit smudgy and generally a little bit lived in. The mascara I'm going to use is by Gucci. This one is super black and I really like the finish that it gives to the eyelashes. So I'm manipulating the lashes at the front to go towards the inner corner of the eye and then the outer lashes outwards so we get a bit more of a rounded finish. I'm taking a tiny amount of the white eyeshadow just over the front of that socket area to lighten it slightly. It gives it a bit more of a grey finish, and then I'm going in with a very light amount of mascara on the bottom lashes because it really was a light coat on Cruella. I'm taking the Stila Stay All Day waterproof liquid eyeliner to do the beauty mark, and the beauty mark is on the same side as the black hair. And then I'm going to move on to lips. Now I know from Nadia's Instagram account that Cherry by MAC was one of the staple lip colours for Cruella. For the Cruella at home it was the Vino one by MAC, which is a bit more of a vampy colour, but for the actual Cruella looks it was always Cherry as the base colour. So I'm going to use that and then I'm going to go in with a lipstick over the top for a little bit of added depth. Now Emma Stone has wider lips than me. I have quite a full bottom lip, even though it might not necessarily look it, so I'm not going to overline my lips. I'm just going to follow the natural lip line, and I'm going to make sure the Cupid's bow is extremely sharp because that's how Nadia did Emma Stone's lips as Cruella. They were extremely sharp at the Cupid's bow. So once you've lined the outer side of your lips, don't forget to fill them in with the Cherry lip pencil as well. Always make sure your lip pencil is super sharp when you're doing defined lips, especially with red, because the last thing you want is to come outside of the lines or have a less than sharp lip line. Over that I'm going to apply Ruby Woo by MAC, which is a matte finish, and it's just going to amp up this colour. Even though Nadia used cherry lip liner in the film, after being colour graded, it would have changed the colours slightly, so the lip always looked a little bit deeper in the movie. Then I'm going in with a sharp angled liner brush just to redefine the Cupid's bow with that lipstick. Cruella didn't really have a ton of contour or anything like that to the face, it was just softly defined, so I'm using the Kevyn Aucoin sculpting powder, and I'm using a very light amount just through the hollows of the cheeks to add a little bit of shape. Using any one colour on the face when it comes to foundation can always make you look quite flat. In particular, when you're using a very pale foundation, it really does knock out the shadows, so it's a great idea just to put them back, and this is one of my favourite contour powders. Don't forget to also take that around your jaw. Again, it's just a little bit of added definition. I feel like with Cruella it's quite important. And then it's time for the wig. I got this one off of eBay. It was a cheap wig, but it really did do the job. Again, Cruella had a variety of hairstyles, but the one where she had a fringe, you could see her brows, so this needed a little trim at the fringe. So I rounded it off slightly, and then I manipulated the shape with a few pins, and then I went in with some hairspray just to hold it in shape. There is a curl to this synthetic hair, so as long as you manipulate it with your fingers, you'll get more of a curl, which is really good, and then you can lacquer it into place. I did see from Nadia's profile that the wig that they requested also had a bit more of a blonde finish rather than a white style, but online it was really hard to find any that had a bit more of a blonde finish rather than white. I popped on a leather jacket for some authenticity. I did a bit more powder to my face to make it a little bit whiter, and then if like me you have brown eyes, just pop in some contact lenses, and then this is the finished look. I hope you loved it. It's really fun to recreate. I also took some images by the natural daylight so you guys can see what it looks like on a mobile outside of studio lighting. Please subscribe if you are new to my channel. If you've got any Halloween requests, leave them below. All the products I've used will be listed and linked in the description bar. Come follow me outside of YouTube over on my social handles, which will be on screen for you now, and I will see you next week. Bye!